Mike can leave and go wherever he wants, but the guys I kind of feel bad for is guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
Oh, Micah. Not the best look. Your thoughts to what Micah Parsons had to say about Mike McCarthy after the game?
I mean, listen, the locker room used to mean something. Locker room used to mean something because Shannon knows this as well. Is when in the locker room, it's a sacred place where you could, have these type of discussions behind the scenes. Everything wasn't meant to be, out in the open. We always, I know in the media we want to pull the curtain back and expose and all those type of things, but that's just really not the way the locker room is supposed to be. Okay, we need to keep things in house. And so my problem with a guy like Micah Parsons, and listen, first and foremost, Micah Parsons is a great football player. But the problem I have with like Michael Parsons and a lot of these podcast boys out here is they want to be exposing all the things that's going on behind the scenes. So putting all their thoughts out there for all of us in media to consume. But that's to the detriment of the team, okay? It's to the detriment of the team. I understand that the team is not doing well. But what good does it do for Michael Parsons after a bad loss where y'all got smacked every which way against the Philadelphia Eagles? What good does it do to undress your head coach in the manner in which he undressed him after the game? You might have issues with Mike McCarthy. You might not like the way, the way he put the game plan together. You might not like the way that he does things as a coach. But there's something called respect for the man that's coaching in your building. Okay? And so for me, I just find it disgusting that for you to go out there and talk in the manner in which you talked about the head coach, because it does nothing to help the Dallas Cowboys at this point in time. We haven't even reached Thanksgiving yet. This thing could get a whole lot worse moving forward when you got guys out there saying the things that he's saying in front of the whole media. It just doesn't make any sense. Shannon, I've never heard a player undress a coach the way that Micah Parsons undressed him yesterday post-game. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Shannon?
Stephen A., let me go, Stephen A. Had Micah Parsons says, look, guys, being a head coach, we know there's things that happen. Mike could leave here and go get another job, and, hey, he's coaching again. But when he said that Zach Martin has done more than Mike McCarthy ever has, that's where he ran into the trouble, because we understand coaches can go get other jobs. We know Zach Martin is closer to the end than the beginning, and he probably just wants to be a one-helmet team. Now, he could. I'm sure somebody will give him an opportunity based on his resume if he wanted to continue to play, if the Cowboys are wanting to move on from Zach Martin. But he ran into the problem, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, D, is that normally what happened in the locker room stayed in the locker room. What was discussed in the locker room stayed in the locker room. Because of now this new media, as they call it, Stephen A., and everybody wants a level of transparency. But transparency has to be good for both sides. Not only the people that consumes it, but for the locker room and the people that's disseminating it. That doesn't help my locker room. That's not going to help us win any more football games. And if, like you said, if you got a problem with Stephen A. saying to putting the game plan together or the practice schedule or the travel schedule, that's one thing. That's something you could talk. Mike, I think we practicing too hard. We practicing too long. I think the meetings are too early, too long. That's one thing. But to say what he said and in the manner in which you said it, because remember, drunk, angry people and kids will tell you the truth. He's frustrated. He's angry with all the losing that they're doing. He's speaking his heart.
Not to mention it's one of the faces of your franchise.
A couple of things that we need to point to here. And I'm glad, I don't know whether you're a Republican candidate or senator or whatever, Mr. Woody, with that tie and that suit on. Or whatever.
I'm very presidential.
Very presidential. Hey.
Yeah, I'm very presidential.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm Stephen A., and I approve that message. But my point to you is this. When I think about what y'all are saying, as I told Shannon and D.O. in the first hour, there's nothing to dispute there. My problem is, why are we stopping there? This is not something Micah Parsons has ever done before. Why would he choose to do it now? I think that it provokes us to ask that legitimate question. And when you talk about guys and their podcasts and stuff like that, this is, dare I say, the ridiculousness of the folks in the podcast world. They don't realize the more they talk, the more they confirm what the media has said about them all along. Because what happens is that you're seeing guys revealing a whole bunch of things over these podcasts, but when the media reported it, we were lying. Well, we fabricated. We made it up. And then you just listen. I tell guys in the media all the time, Shannon. I tell them all the time, Woody, Shay. I just say, just sit back. Like, I'm one of those guys that's been on the record. I've never had a problem with guys having their own platform. First of all, I want you to make your money. I want you to have a different outlet other than the sport that you play to rely upon your money. I don't want your only source of revenue for your life being what you have to do on the playing court or field. No, I want you to be out here making your money just like anybody else. But I always tell people in our business, relax, just wait. They'll tell. Just look at it. Oh, didn't you deny, didn't you say the media was lying about this, that, and that? And then all of a sudden, they go out there. Because I promise you, Micah Parsons at some point, y'all misconstrued what I said. Y'all misconstrued what I said. Oh, it's coming. Oh, you can book it. You lied to get Kellen Moore out of there so you could call plays. You could do everything you're doing. The level of culpability that he may have may be what has assisted and contributed to the level of frustration we heard Micah Parsons articulate. And if that's the case, Shannon and you are right in terms of what you shouldn't say, but sometimes when you're emotional and frustrated and you're downtrodden and you feel you're getting the fingers pointed in your direction, you're dying for somebody to speak up. Sometimes a star speaks up on behalf of everybody else because somebody else that doesn't have the cachet can't say what they really are clamoring and desiring to be said. Y'all know this better than me because both of y'all are players and both of y'all are champions. You know good and damn well players talk to each other. And you know good and damn well the likelihood that Micah Parsons coming out of his mouth and saying that is what a whole bunch of cats were saying to one another behind closed doors to each other. But he got the cachet to say it because what you going to do to him? You got to take all of those things into consideration. And if he felt compelled to do it, what was being done behind the scenes to the players in the eyes of the players by the very coach he was talking about? We got to take all of those things into consideration. We got to ask, again, not condoning it, not giving the okay, but just trying to crystallize the motive behind something so obviously wrong. You're Micah Parsons. You can't defend this. It's clearly wrong. There's nobody worth cents who would advise you to do that. Why did you do that? Because I can assure you, Micah Parsons is not stupid. He is not dumb. A matter of fact, he can be very deliberate and intentional with his actions. We're, again, not defending it, but why would he do that?
But
I'm just saying I can ask that question.
Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Well, okay, we all know that Mike McCarthy is a dead man walking here. We all know that. We also know that the things that he talked, that Michael Parsons talked about, it shows up on the football field. He's not telling us things that we don't really know.
You're saying we know. I'm saying to you is Micah Parsons might think this is going to be Jerry Jones holding on to a cat too long.
Shannon, what do you think?
He doesn't know. He might not know that. He might want it to happen, but he might think that Jerry might save him.
Woody, I say this all the time, and I got a lot of quotes. You never accept anything in a win you wouldn't in a loss. So you tell me, Stephen A., what's the difference in the practice schedule when they was going 12-5 than right now? What's the difference in the traveling schedule? What's the difference in what they eat? You see what happens is that when you tolerate things and you go 12-5, guess what happens when you start not when
but
you're
Shannon,
not 12-5?
can I ask you a question?
Now it starts to bubble up because you don't have the foundation in order to stand on.
Let me stop you right there and ask you a question, Shannon, because you throw that quote out there a lot, and you're prophetically, there's no denying that you're absolutely right. Never accept anything in a win that you wouldn't accept in a loss. I got that. Do we know when you ask specific questions about practice habits and all of this other stuff, if Mike McCarthy hasn't changed stuff up? Do we know that he has been a model of consistency? Do you have some inside information that the rest of us don't know about? Do we know?
No, but what I'm saying, Stephen A., even take the practice and the travel itinerary aside. What did they do when they was winning? They ran their mouths. That's the problem. You see what I'm saying? You accepted when they were winning and they're running their mouths. Now you got a problem. You should have shut it down. Look at teams that win and look at how little they talk. You don't hear Kansas City yapping. You never heard the New England Patriots yapping. You don't hear the Lions yapping. What has the Dallas Cowboys continuously done, even though they haven't won anything in 28 years?
Well, I would say the answer to that question is you brought up two organizations that are led by Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, respectively. And I would submit to you that if Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, you wouldn't be hearing something like this from Micah Parsons. So the fact that it's Mike McCarthy as opposed to them, from Micah Parsons, from the players, if Bill Belichick was there, you trying to tell me you would hear that from the players?
There's more than one voice in that organization.
Because Jerry Jones would emasculate him.
Okay.
Jerry Jones would emasculate him. He wouldn't give him the control that he needs.
What I don't like is that he's critiquing someone's work ethic who's been in the business of coaching for multiple decades. That's what I think no one likes here. You could be mad at what's going on in Dallas, and that's the end of it.